Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Where's the house at? All right. What you want? Now look at the difference between that and, hey, okay, now tell me about your property again. I mean, okay, wow. Is that a one story or a two story? I know that neighbor. Oh, yes, absolutely. Hunter's Crossing. That is a great neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love those houses over there. And again, not being fake, but just smile in your voice. Smile
Yep.
when you're talking to the people, and it'll come across through this phone.
Yeah. And there's, I don't know, do you want to take a second? I'd be happy to share a couple of pointers that I've learned over the years. Do you want to share
Oh,
one
the
or two
floor's
little things?
yours. You're right ahead.
Because again, Ray, with me, I think the most I have to offer with people is it's the little things. And if you walk up to one of my technicians, if you happen to be in Orlando and you see guys wearing this shirt, pressure washing a house, test them out. Pull your car over, walk up to them and say, hey, what separates your company from your competition? And my technicians are going to tell you the little things. That's going to be their response to little things. Because every Tuesday morning at our technician meeting, I ask the guys, what separates us from our competition? And I make them answer with the little things. And what the little things are, and Ray, I know you'll agree with this, so I'm just going to speak for you, okay? There's no person out there can do one thing. There's not a thing that will make your company better than your competition, because someone else is going to have the same equipment as you.
Uh-huh.
Anyone can buy the same chemicals that you buy. If you be like, well, our CRM will send you a text message when we're on the way. Customer doesn't care, because a guy without a CRM can send a text message. So that doesn't matter. So there's no one thing that separates you from your competition. But if you do a significant number of, not even significant, but if you do a half a dozen little things right, that's where you get that experience. And so I just, and in my business, I've not invented one thing. I've had the privilege of working for a guy that when I was a technician back in the day in a different industry, but in the service industry, who understood this stuff, and he taught it to all of his people. And then, of course, I've had the opportunity to listen to people like you, Ray, listen to podcasts, and like I love the Quick Talk podcast and things like that, and all these guys that share these things, and I've just implemented that stuff. So I've babbled with all of that to say this, to give you any new guy, you're just now getting your thing. You got your Google My Business listing up there. You're handing out flyers. You're getting some phone rings. The first thing you want to do, and this doesn't sound like a big deal, but I promise you it is when you answer, you say, this is Bobby with XYZ Pressure Washing. How can I help you? Uh-huh. Now you say it with the smile on your face, just like Ray had mentioned, and you need to get robotic at it. And you say, this is Bobby with XYZ Pressure Washing and Window Cleaning. How can I help you? And you say it like that every time, to the point where people think it's a recording, because A, they're not used to pressure washing companies answering the phone, and then B, they expect them to say, Bob's Pressure Washing, can I help you?
Right.
So whenever you say, here's who I am, so they're connecting with a person, not a company, which is important. Even though you want them to connect with your company, people don't emotionally do that. They emotionally connect with people, and then you can hopefully successfully transition that connection over to your business.
Well, your company becomes your people become your company, and vice versa, but they have to connect with a person first.
Exactly.
Because nobody ever looks at my logo and says, ooh.
Yeah.
Right. They talk to me and they may go, ooh, but
because we're not in an industry that we're not going to have a Nike swoosh that's recognized all over the world. No, we're not going to build, a company that's doing $4 million a year in a region isn't going to have brand recognition in a home. So make sure people are connecting with you. This is Bob with X. How can I help you? That's very calculated. Don't say, can I help you? Don't say anything else. Say those words. And whenever they say something along the lines of, well, I need to get my house pressure washed, or I need to get some cleaning done, or I need X, Y, and Z, here's your response. Write this down. Great. I can help you with that. Tell me a little bit more about what you're needing to get cleaned. And what that's going to do is get them to give you all the information you need to be able to come out and give them a quote if you do it in person, or to give them a quote if you do it over the phone, whichever. Both are good and both are fine. And then once they say, okay, yeah, I need X, Y, and Z done at my house, I got algae on my siding, you say, well, the best way for me to give you a quote would be for me to come out and have a look at everything, meet you on site, blah, 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 blah. When would be a good time for you? And give them a couple of options. Once you've set the time to come out and look at their house, here's the last calculated thing you want to do is you explain what the quoting process is going to be when you arrive. And I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. Is you say to them, okay, well, I'm going to be out at your house on Saturday the 12th at 10 a.m. But, when I get there, I'm going to come up and knock on the door. I'm going to go over everything with you. Or I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. When I get there, I'm going to knock on the door, introduce myself. Once we've chatted just for a second, I'm going to walk around the outside of the home. I'm going to fill out my quote form, and then I'm going to come back to the front door and go over everything with you. It's going to take me 15, 25 minutes to do that. So the quoting process is pretty quick. And then if you have any questions, I'll answer them at the end. And if you like what you see, we'll get you on the schedule. Now, Ray, that's it. So let me just bring one more thing together, because I'm telling you now, Ray, you may have something that's better than me, because I know there's a better way to probably do this, but I just shared some gold with you guys because I didn't invent this myself. I learned it from guys that have built multi-million-dollar businesses. We've removed anxiety from that's the biggie, is we've removed potential anxiety or discomfort or awkwardness from your entire appointment that you set with that person, because people are used to the cable guy coming over that has no personality, and they don't know when he's going to show up, and when he gets there they don't know if he needs to come inside or outside or X, Y, and Z. What you've done is you've answered all their questions without letting them ask any.
Right.
You've made the phone call really short and sweet, and at that point they're like, okay, great, I don't have to make sure the inside of the house is clean. I don't have to worry about some dude coming in when my wife is getting ready for work, whatever. He's going to come up, meet me at the front door, go around the outside, work up the quote. He's going to give me the quote right then. If I want to get on the schedule, I'll get there. You've just answered all their questions for them. And now you look like a hero, because the other guy answered Bob's pressure washing. Yeah, I can come out and tell you what it'll be.
Yeah.
And that's all they get. And they have all of these questions.
I'll look it up on Google.
Exactly.
I'll look it up on Google and shoot you a quote.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't do a good job doing quotes over the phone. Personally, I like doing them in person, but you can do that effectively. But that's Ray, I don't know where we want to go next, but that for the new guys out there, or for those of you that are maybe not having the greatest success, everything I just shared with you, I just trained a new admin the first week of January, here in the new year, which the first, the third, fourth, and fifth, basically I had 0 phone calls because people were still hungover from the new year. But I trained her on answering the calls, just like I went over with you guys. So yesterday, which was Monday, and today, which was Tuesday, she set 16 sales appointments for me, calls coming in, just because she used that method. And when I got out, we had 2 different customers that specifically told me how amazing the experience was when they called, and it's a brand new admin. She doesn't know anything. I just trained her how to answer the phone with that script. So that's I don't know if we were supposed to talk about phone calls, Ray.
No, again, this is organic. We're going to talk about what we talked about. But yeah, you nailed it. I mean, 100%. And, one of the running jokes in my office, and for those of you that don't know, I work with my wife, Tanya, and Tanya is you on the phone. And she basically laughs a lot of times and hands me an estimate sheet and says, go take this order for me.
Does Tanya want to come work in Orlando?
But she's pre-sold them over the phone. I mean, by the time she gets on, and sometimes, she'll get on there a little bit longer and answer some more questions. But at that point, just like you've said, I mean, you've pre-staged it, you've pre-sold it, and it's knocking down ducks at that point. I mean, it's so much easier once you get there because they know what to expect from that appointment. A lot of their questions, if you go the extended route, a lot of their questions have already been answered. But, it blows my mind about how many people in this business. I mean, I pay money for an ad. I pay money to make my phone ring. I mean, that's what everybody wants. But then a customer calls in and you treat them like crap and you blow that. I mean, that's just take that money and just throw it away. You'll save yourself a couple of minutes on the phone.
Yeah.
Or not answering your phone at the same time. I mean, you're buying these leads, you're buying these phone calls. Make the most of it. Yeah. And again, they can make them love you before you ever even show up to the place. I understand some markets you have to do the Google thing. Some markets, Lord, I've seen the traffic in Orlando, man. I don't know how you. get around that
I
place.
think
But
I think I was on the road for about 3 hours just during regular business hours today, driving to appointments. So
yeah, and and I try to a lot of the times, like in my evenings, I will set my appointments. And a lot of times, I might actually give them a time. I'll tell them, well, it'll be, on a Thursday afternoon. Ray will be by your house sometime, between 5 and 7 or so. And obviously wintertime takes a toll on all of us because we have less daylight working hours out there. But so we're real similar in that respect. Maybe not exactly the same, but whenever you show up clean in a company shirt, smiling and happy, and it does a lot to the psyche of the person. I mean, it does, try not to show. And I remember whenever I was first starting out, and right now people are going, well, this is easy for you guys because you've got an assistant and you've got a wife and you've got technicians. Man, I'll tell you what, whenever I first started this crap out, I would sit there covered in mud, covered in muck. I would have clean t-shirts in my truck and towels. I would like strip off. And so if I knew I had estimate appointments, I would like wipe off. I'd wash myself down with a hose and I'd change clothes like in my truck out there just so I looked clean and presentable and could clean up instead of showing up with crap all over me and just
and you still smell bad.
And looking exactly. I still smelled like bleach, but hey, I looked more presentable, and I walked. And I may not have wanted to, but I walked with a spring in my step and a smile on my face, even though I may have been half dead inside.
Absolutely. And that's a good point, Ray, because like I said, I hired my admin last week. So, this is new. That's new for me. Right. But my point on that, just for anyone watching, was it's a simple script. And if you follow it, it works. But we've been through the fire. We've done the hard stuff, and Ray's way further down the road than me, especially in age. But Ray's way further down the road than I am. I was trying to get a laugh out of you there.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I went like that. My night crews are coming in. This is being recorded at night. My night crews are coming in, and I had to give them But yeah, I am a lot older.
a lot older than me. But
this hat isn't because my hair's messy. It's because it's not there. So.
Yeah, but this stuff works, guys. And the bottom line is to get every step of the way. I was just having this conversation today with my son, who's my business partner, and I was like, it's like if we rewound 2 years ago and looked at where we're at today, we would be like, oh my God, we're going to be so amazing and so victorious in 2 years. But here we are 2 years later, and it's like, damn, this is stressful and this is hard. And, now we have a whole new set of problems. So every step of the way, it's tough, it's difficult, but the foundational things stay the same. And Ray, I don't know where you want to go next, but, like my heart, whenever we're talking to people, is to really, help the guys that maybe are a little lost. It's like, hey, I know how to be a technician, but I don't necessarily know, how to get that phone ringing and how to make all that stuff happen. Because again, guys, like I've told people before, you've got 4 things to do when you're new in a business. Now, when you're raise size, you've got more stuff, but the additional stuff still only supports the 4 things. So there's just infrastructure that goes underneath it. The first one is marketing, which gets your phone to ring. The second one is sales, which closes the deal. The third one you'd think is cleaning stuff, but it's not cleaning stuff. It's cashing the check. You have to do a little bit of cleaning to get the check cashed, but you got to remember what's important: marketing, sales, cashing the check. And then the fourth one is probably the most important, is go back to number 1. And that's it. And if you do those 4 things, which if you're listening, there's really only 3. If you do those 4 things, you'll win. Because so many times when guys get into this, if you've read the book, The EMyth, it really explains this really well. But technicians get into starting their own business, and then they get stuck because they're focused on the technical side of things. And the technical things are important, but you can't out operate a sales problem. But you can figure out how to. You need to say, what's the word? What do I always say? You can't out operate a sales problem, but you can outsell an operations problem. You can you can sell it, and then you can get out there and struggle through it and figure out how to get it done on the back end. So
sitting in my garage right now, I've got an 8 gallon a minute, thing that'll fire up at 22,000 BTUs, and I can shoot 60 feet with a shooter tip, and I can blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And it sounds great. And when's the last time you used it? Well, not in 3 weeks because the phone hasn't rang. Well, yeah. Get off the equipment, Jethro, and learn how to sell something.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. So it's just like the biggest thing I always want to preach is, guys, it's marketing and sales, and that's it. If you're not focusing on those things, it doesn't matter how good you are at pressure washing, you're not going to be able to do it.
That's true. And you talked about the EMyth, and one of the things whenever we start creating our businesses and doing the 3 jobs you have, essentially, we're creating machines, and we look at our business like a machine. And guys like you and I, our job now is to basically keep putting gas in the machine.
Yep.
Because once we get now, it's not to say that our machine isn't going to throw a belt every now and then, or have to be taken down for servicing, or just something's going to happen. A spark plug's got to get changed. But in general, our businesses, we turn the key on it, we crank it up, and it's our job just to keep them fueled. And if we keep them fueled, and we've kept them fueled and maintained, maintenance is a big part of it. That's where the service comes in. Our machines, which are our businesses, are going to last us a long, long time. Yeah. And the thing that comes out of is money that comes out of the output of this machine, and it's just spraying dollar bills all over us. Look at service. I wrote this down a second ago when this made me think of this. We've all been to McDonald's, and we've had the cashier. Yeah, I'd like a Big Mac, and go ahead and supersize that sweet tea. All right, $6.
Yeah.
And they almost or $6. They almost have like an attitude, and it's like you get pissed off at them. You're just like, I can't believe I'm giving this person my freaking money who's not even taking my money with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? When have we ever had that same experience at Chick-fil-A?
Never.
No,
dude. Every time I go to Chick-fil-A, I'm without. It's funny you say that, because every time I go in there, I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, is my business running like this? That I always look at it and say, are we doing what these guys are doing? Because they have it down, and it's every one of them.
And Chick-fil-A isn't selling 10 nuggets for $1 like Burger King right now. And they don't have a freaking value meal, that they're having to tout out there for customers. And every Chick-fil-A that I go by is busier than most McDonald's that I see at this point. They put in the double drive-through lanes, and you're happy. I mean, Chick-fil-A could go up $1 a sandwich, and I'd still be over there giving them my money right now, because I enjoy the experience at Chick-fil-A. These people are happy to take my money. They're happy to see me.
It's funny, Ray. I used to, and I'm actually not even joking when I say this. I grew up, Oklahoma is not the Midwest, but it's like the Midwest, but it's called the Plains, and I don't even know what all consists of the Plains, but Oklahoma is one of them. But you wave at people when you pass them on the highway, and you say hi to people, and you hold doors for the ladies, and you say thank you, when someone does something.
And no sir, and
Mm-hmm. And when I would go to Chick-fil-A, for some reason I hated the phrase "my pleasure." I just didn't like it, and of course they always say that there. So when I would go to Chick-fil-A, I would refuse to say thank you, because I didn't want them to say my pleasure back to me. And then, of course, finally one day I gave in, and to the point to where now my pleasure is like my thing, because I'm like, if it's good enough for Chick-fil-A. So whenever I talk to customers, it's my pleasure every time.
Damn right.
I know that sounds stupid, but I was like, I don't like the phrase "my pleasure," so I'm going to not say thank you.
But think about what we're talking about here. We can take practices that we see from other businesses that we like what they do, and put them in our business. I mean, what makes Chick-fil-A special? We just said the people that are out there doing it.
It's an experience. And just to piggyback on that, Ray,